This is Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank at wafdbank.com. I'm Michelle Ludtka, and we've got a great show in store for you this week. I catch up with WSU Director of Athletics Pat Chun, plus all new trivia and picks for the week. But to start things off, let's check in on our hot topics presented by WaFd Bank as our experts weigh in from the sidelines. Joining us now from Q13 Sports and Sports Radio KJR is Furness, a content creator for Gonzaga Athletics and a Pac12 women's b-ball color analyst, Alyssa Charlston, and from the Seattle Times on the UW men's basketball beat, Percy Allen. Guys, thanks so much for joining us for Just a Bit Outside to give us your hot takes from the sidelines.
Thanks
for having us. I'm pumped.
Awesome. Well, obviously, if the introductions didn't show it clearly enough, we're going to talk some basketball today, which I love. Let's start first with some news that came out earlier this week. The UW women's basketball team was supposed to finally return to action on Friday. They've been having some terrible COVID cases amongst their team and haven't really played since the beginning of January. Alyssa, you were supposed to be on the call of that. What do you not kind of know about all of this, and kind of bigger picture, how do you think the UW's women's team will be able to come back from this?
Yeah. The last game they played was January 3rd, really looking to bounce back. And it's tough because they've had some inconsistencies offensively and defensively throughout the season. So how do you get back on the grind when you can't get games in? I think that's the toughest thing, because practice is not quite like a game. You don't get amped up in the same way. So obviously we found out this week, really close to that Oregon State game, because I was supposed to travel to Corvallis, that it was a no-go. A lot of that related to practice, the ability to practice as a team. So hopefully that gets rescheduled. But for now, they're still set to play Oregon. But overall, for them to get back on track, I think they need to start shooting a little bit better from three, especially. They're around 27%, and it's really easy to defend a team that really can't shoot the three. So hopefully they can get that kind of going in this off time, get a lot of shots up.
Look, I think it's really going to be difficult for them to kind of get back going here. I mean, yes, they've missed these past 4 games, but they've missed right now. It'll be 7 games total postponements because of COVID. And so to try to schedule all of that within just this sort of 6-week time frame that's left, it's going to be near impossible.
All good. Hey, buddy.
What's up, man? It's the world of Zoom. I love it.
I love it. Are you a big basketball fan like your dad?
Yeah, because we have our own hoop in the backyard, and I like to play basketball.
Oh, awesome. That's great.
Can I get like 20 minutes?
Okay, Dad.
Okay.
Bye.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I love it. As you were saying, Percy.
Yeah, so it's really though. Look, it is really going to be tough for them, right? To just sort of to pause a program. They had 2 players undergo COVID. And this week on Monday, they only had 7 healthy players in practice. So to shut everything down and to get a ramp back up, and not just ramp back up in this conference. This is the toughest basketball conference in the nation. And they're supposed to go to number 13 Oregon on Sunday. And to be competitive, that's almost not fair.
Yeah, you know what? First of all, I feel like I'm over my skis because I got the 2 best people to talk college basketball probably in the state on with me today. So, Michelle, thanks for making me feel so minuscule today. But I would say the thing I'm curious about with Washington women's basketball, in all seriousness, I mean, I assume that this buys Jody Wynn another year, right? Not since the days of Tia Jackson have we seen a program that is normally as top shelf as Washington. I mean, just a few years removed from a Final Four. I mean, I know the Kelsey Plum days seem like forever ago, right? But I mean, going back to Chris Gobrecht way back in the day, yep. And then June Doherty, and then it just took a dip with Tia. And then, Neighbors came in and got things going. This program, just no excuse for them to be as bad as they are unless they're really young. And maybe, in a sense, that hurts them even more, because if they are that young, then they need to play games. But, I mean, this team's winning 2 or 3, 5 conference games a year. And, Percy, you said it. This is not the conference to try to get well in, man. It is too good. I wonder about her future as a coach, especially when you look on the other side of the state. And that program, which has been a doormat forever, is now on the rise. I mean, it's a lot of weird stuff going on at Washington. We're not used to seeing that with the women's program.
The one thing that can, the one thing that's in Jody Wynn's favor is that she has a great recruiting class coming in. Like I'm talking like a top 15 ranked class coming in. And that's on top of this year's class. She's got two really impressive freshmen with Tamia Sadler. And so there, it looks better going forward. But yeah, you're totally right that this year, I think for not just her, but for a lot of teams, you can get a pass for this year, right? Because it's just all of the craziness. But you're right that like there hasn't been a lot of success in recent years. And she has to own that. I mean, there's no getting around that. She followed a tough acting Mike Neighbors. She knew what she was getting into. There were some struggles there, but it does look better going forward.
And how about the men's team? I mean, we haven't seen the men's basketball team at the University of Washington struggle like this in, I don't even remember when.
Lynn Nance, Andy Russo.
Maybe Bob, even, like Bob Bender. A 5-23 team, but hey, look, Ian and I have been doing this a really long time, kind of since before you two guys were born. I haven't seen this. Look, I covered a 18-win Sonic team. I've been around some really bad Mariner teams, but I haven't seen 1-11 before, and so and not just 1-11, but 1-11, and it doesn't. I'm looking at the schedule, and I can't necessarily see. Oh, well, that's a win. That's a win. I mean, it is going to be tough for them to win another game.
I think what's interesting, and I'll be interested to hear what Alyssa thinks, having played the game in the college level, about Mike, about what Hopkins is doing defensively, because that's his calling card, and they're giving up 90 points a game. But one thing that kind of jumps out at me. I never would have thought a couple of years ago I would hear people talking, like Husky fans on the radio about, what's the buyout for Mike Hopkins? I mean, Jen Cohen extended him, and that's looking like a really sketchy decision. They can't afford to fire him. Let's put it that way. It's $12 million buyout this year. It's $9 million next year. They can't afford to fire him. But at the same time, I'm not sure how much further you can go. Well, you're right. The women's program probably gets a pass this year. They're young, but in this state, the 2021 class of high school basketball players was through the roof talented. I think you got Jackson Grant, and that's it. I mean, to not even get the Noel kid, losing him to Arizona, a team under all kinds of fire when your brother played there. You grew up here. He's sitting behind the bench the last couple of years as a freshman and a sophomore. You don't get him. That's a big miss. They've got a kid starting right now at St. Mary's, a kid starting at Montana State that are freshmen this year, true freshmen. He wasn't recruiting those guys. For some unknown reason, you don't recruit Noah Williams. I mean, I don't get that one. The recruiting's bad. The team is bad. And you won with Lorenzo's guys. You had the best defensive player in the country in Thibault, and that's why that defense looked good. You had a great player in Noah Dickerson who could score low post against guys 8 inches taller than him. But since then, they haven't had anything going. I don't know, Alyssa, I'm surprised. The offense is one thing, but the defense is what really surprises me because they can't stop anybody.
It's really mind-boggling to me because it's his defense, that zone, that sticky zone that he used with Jim Boeheim. And I think a lot of it is maybe players aren't loving that zone. Maybe they're not buying into that style of defense because they are not fast on rotations. They're not getting out to guys. They're not quite as long as they were last year, those long arms of Isaiah Stewart and Jaden McDaniels. And you didn't reap the full benefit of those guys. Percy, I read up on your article about this. You didn't reap the full benefits of those one and done guys because they didn't have a great season. And if you have a good season and you're able to prove as a coach that you can develop those guys for the 1 year that you get them, or maybe the 2 years if they redshirt, you can prove to other guys like what Mark Few has kind of done at Gonzaga that, hey, if you come here and I know your aspirations are to be in the NBA, you're going to come here, you're going to develop, you're going to get better, but we're also going to win some games. UW didn't get that. A lot of times to get people to buy in, you need at least 1 or 2 players that are the exact echo of coach. And I don't know if you have an echo of Coach Hopkins perfectly on that team right now.
I wonder if that defense, that zone defense, is something that's unappealing to recruits coming in, especially like you said, Alyssa, when they didn't have success, because I think it's not the 2-3 zone we played, at Our Lady of Fatima and the CYO where you just stand there. I mean, there's a lot of discipline involved. There's a lot of mental part of it involved. You don't use your athleticism, but you got to make sure you're in the right spot. I wonder, guys, if part of it is the young athlete, the kid, the 6'5" wing, the 6'6" wing coming in that's athletic as all can be. Maybe he doesn't want to play in that defense.
Look, it's a good question, right? And it's something that obviously other teams in the Pac-12 will use to negatively recruit against Washington. But if you're Mike Hopkins, still like easy refute is, well, hey, look, Matisse Thybulle, Jalen Noel, Isaiah Stewart, Jaden McDaniels, those guys played within his system and went to the NBA. I think kids just want to play. I don't think they necessarily care that much that if a school like Washington were to come to recruit them, then like they have as good a chance as anybody else. But look, Ian, you really brought it up. They had some recruiting misses, and Alyssa, you sort of brought it up as well that like right now on this team that you don't have guys who are leaders. What I think, there's so many things that are going on with Washington that's wrong, but at the bottom of it all, and not to get too sort of in the sort of hairs with this, but it's just roster construction, right? Like this roster just doesn't fit. There's not enough leaders. There's not enough rebounders. There's way too many shooters, but just not enough guys who are sort of driving the message home. And so you throw all of that with, just as you guys sort of pointed out, that like you're not playing your defense and you can't shoot, so you're not scoring. Then you get this result, which is 1-11, and it's looking like something disastrous that might come forward.
And if I can add one quick point to that, I totally agree with that. It's the frustration of that zone. We tried to replicate it in college. I had a fantastic defensive coach. We tried to replicate it on the women's basketball side, and it is frustrating as heck when you don't get it and you're not getting rotations and you have to stop practice. It's kind of fun. I don't think it's tough to say for me as a player that it was as rewarding to see it work well in games, to make it worthy of all the frustration in practice. So as a player, I think you're right, Percy. I don't think people look too heavy at, okay, well, I'm not going to go to the school because they play the point zone or the Syracuse zone, that tough defense. But I think it does make a difference once you're there. And how much do you enjoy practice? How much do you enjoy being there and being around those dudes? It just doesn't seem like there's a ton of buy-in in general.
And you know who, though, is having a lot of fun these days on the basketball court is, of course, Washington's cross-state rival, the WSU Cougars. I'm using that as a little segue there. If you didn't see the magic, I was working behind the scenes. But obviously, the men's basketball team is off to their best start since the 2006-2007 season. The women hit the top 25 for the first time in program history. What is working so well on the Palouse for these squads?
I know sort of Kyle Smith just a bit with the men, and I'll just say that they are really embracing who they are, like their culture. Like, so you see with Washington that like they just don't even look like what Mike Hopkins wants. With Wazoo, they look exactly like what he wants. And so, look, I don't think that Wazoo necessarily has better players. I just don't look. I like their guys, but I don't think they're necessarily better one-on-one players. But they have embraced that system. I think every shot they get is a reasonably good shot, and they play connected. Washington doesn't play connected. That Wazoo team, they are connected.
That's a great point. I think Kyle Smith definitely has the guys that he wants in that program. This past offseason was a huge year recruiting-wise, a huge offseason recruiting-wise, getting in big-timers. Efe Abogidi, love that name, is a problem at the rim. He is so big for them defensively and making everything tough whenever you come in to the key. Especially against these big teams, the UCLAs, the USCs. He is such a presence on defense, but efficiency-wise, that's Kyle Smith's MO. It's nerd ball. Like, they are really taking that to the next level. Isaac Bonton, their leading scorer, has kind of figured out his way, field goal percentage-wise, what's a good shot, what's not great. He's had some rough games, but I think, Ian, you mentioned it earlier, Noah Williams is a big miss for this side of the state, for Seattle side of the state, because he truly does it all. And he's that humble guy, but he also has that, like, I'm going to talk to you at the free throw line kind of guy, like trash talking like he likes to do against UW. I really like the way that this program is headed.
He plays like a bulldog mentality. You need that guy. And I mean, he was going to go, he was going to go to the University of Buffalo. Washington didn't recruit him. Ernie Kent, who stole money for years from Wazoo, he didn't recruit him. And his dad's a Hall of Famer at Washington State. And his dad, every game at O'Day, Percy, you probably saw a guy, he'd wear a Washington State hat at O'Day games and Wazoo's previous staff ignored him. Kyle Smith comes in. That was his guy right from the start. I'm getting this dude. I'm bringing him in. Isaac Bonton, you love him as a Cougar because he just battles, he competes, he tells you about it, he gives them an attitude. He's the perfect senior, but this is a team that is about a year or two away because what you said is right, Percy. They don't have great players. FA is going to play in the NBA probably, but that's probably it. And outside of him, they've just got a bunch of dudes that play hard, play together. They're going to be there for 3 or 4 years together. And by the time Noah's a junior and a senior, and Deshaun Jackson's a heck of a post player, they haven't had 2 guys like that in forever. But this is a team that plays hard together. I love the attitude. Noah brings an attitude, and they kind of see it trickle down to everybody else. And you also have to have a system. You have to have a system. And Tony had a system. George Raveling had a system. You have to play a little unique and play good defense. And he was the perfect hire for Washington State. And it's the kind of guy you have to have there.
And it's so odd to think that they lost their best player. And he was really close to coming back. They lost CJ Ellaby, taken in the draft. I don't know how much he's playing for Portland, but CJ was reasonably close to coming back had it not been for this COVID sort of craziness stuff. He just said, I'm not going to, risk it. But when a team loses its best player, then the collective parts just somehow that void, people just fill that void. And yet you see that. That's what's happened on this team here.
When you have a volume shooter leave, and CJ Ellaby was a volume shooter, he was a fantastic scorer, and he wasn't just a scorer, but sometimes the chemistry changes a lot too. You have a lot of guys that believe in themselves that they can fill that void. Sometimes it doesn't go great because you have guys stepping up in the wrong ways, but I think you're totally right. It's by committee now, and they have great guys around the post play, around Isaac Bonton. You can really unite a team with the departure of a great player.
Now, our roundtable discussion didn't stop there. If you'd like to hear the rest of it, including our experts' thoughts on Gonzaga and the NCAA tournament, just head over to justabitoutside.fox and click on episode 14 Extras. Now, here is my conversation with Washington State University Director of Athletics, Pat Chun.
Well, Pat, as always, great to see you. I hope you and your family are doing well in Pullman. Happy New Year. How are you right now?
Happy New Year to you as well. And I probably saw you last right before the pandemic in Seattle, because I think the shutdown was a mere couple of weeks after that. But doing well. We're in, both men's and women's basketball seasons are full go right now. And, in this pandemic season for all these sports, you kind of take things game by game, day by day, and kind of just celebrate the opportunities you get to actually go compete and go play, because we know how important it is to our student athletes. So, where we sit now, both basketball programs are performing well. I had a tough loss on the men's side, but the women are making history with every win, every step they make through this difficult conference in the Pac12, and it's been really inspiring and fun to watch these women just grab history by the heart and pull us all the way through and with improving this program. So it's been a fun couple of weeks for Washington State for sure.
Oh, absolutely. You talked about some wins there, kind of big picture wins, really, with the programs doing so well and really giving all of us, in Cougar Nation something to cheer about and be happy about during these really strange times. Adding on to it also, you had 3 WSU women's soccer players drafted in the National Women's Soccer League draft this last week. We got through a football season, it happened. You touched on some of the positives there, but overall with the program right now, where would you evaluate where the department is at?
Well, from where I sit, I firmly believe 21, we may look back as one of the best calendar years we have. You touched on women's soccer. I talked to Todd Schulenberger and I offered congratulations and condolences at the same time. The awesome thing is we had players drafted. I think we've had 5 players drafted in the last 2 years, and that's a congratulations. The condolences, he has to go replace those players. So there's a challenge in there, but it's why he took a team to the College Cup. It's why we're able to compete at such high levels. And with football, it was, I tell everyone I'm proud of everything that team had to go through, from a new staff, not having spring ball in summer, and the stops and starts that we had. We actually had 2 games. One we canceled 24 hours before kickoff, and the other 2 hours before kickoff. And just seeing the toll that took on everyone associated with football, and for us to just get through and get to the finish line, I think is a testament to the human spirit of just trying to just find some normalcy in the pandemic, and for a group of young people and a football staff, it was, trying to get to practice and build up toward a Saturday to play games. And, we're fortunate we got 4 in, and grateful that we got those games in, grateful we got reps with a new offense and a new defense, and, really excited for Nick and that football program to get their first spring ball, which is odd in year 2, but they'll get their first spring ball. And whatever normal is, we'll be better prepared having gone through a season. And so, when you look across the board with baseball and rowing and tennis and golfs, and what basketball's doing, where football's at, volleyball and soccer continue to play at a high level, I mean, this is a really fun time to be a Coug and be a part of this athletic department.
You mentioned spring football there. What can you tell us about kind of the plans right now or moving forward for not just spring football, but kind of all spring sports in general? Like where are we at right now? What can we expect in the next couple of months?
Well, it's hard to look that far down the road. I think we all are used to living in a pandemic where you just, although it's good to plan, you can't really write those plans in a Sharpie anymore. You got to kind of do them in pencil. So, right now we're hosting men's and women's basketball. We actually have a swim meet on campus. Nothing we do has fans in the building. Everything is compliant with Whitman County, State of Washington, Pac12 and NCAA guidelines. So we'll work through that. For us, the most important thing is we have these college-aged young people that that believe in this environment, this co-curricular environment of academics and athletics. And heck, we had a 3.2 collectively as an athletic department last semester. So our teams have done an extraordinary job managing the distance learning piece, and it's up to us administrators to keep giving them opportunities to practice and go play. So, I know Nick's put together a winter conditioning schedule. Those are probably easier to manage because we know what the rules of engagement are to try to put people in the weight room or put people in conditioning. I know our athletes are working hard because they want to keep getting better, and we have some ideas of what spring could look like. But like I warn everyone here, we're only in January. Let's get through January, and then we can keep moving forward.
I can imagine a lot is out of your hands when it comes to what you can and cannot do right now, both from the Pac-12 conference and also from our state. You mentioned Whitman County. Are you guys working on plans right now to get to a point where students could be back in and being able to root on their teams? Because I know second semester, winter semester just started. Some students are back in Pullman. Any insight onto if that could even be possible in 2021?
Well, you are not to age you, but you're of the vintage where what a nearly full Beasley feels like and the energy around that, and it's a pretty special environment. We had it once last spring before the pandemic when Klay Thompson came to town, and we got over 10,000 in that building. There's an irony going on here that is noticeable, that both of our men's and women's basketball programs are competitive again at a pretty high level, and we can't let people in the building. So, we're in constant communication with our government affairs people, who are in constant communication with Whitman County and the state of Washington. And whenever that point comes, I mean, we'll be prepared to open our doors, but we also understand from a health and safety standpoint why the decisions are made. We'll respect it, but man, it would be great to get students inside our venues because the way our students are at Washington State. I mean, they make a difference in Martin Stadium. They make a difference in Beasley. I mean, I've watched false starts, and I've watched free throws missed because crowds, because of our students and just how vocal and passionate they are.
Bleeding crimson for sure. I mean, I'm a very proud Coug alum, and seeing that background behind you right now, it's taken me back to the Tony Bennett days when I was in college. We can age me, it's fine. But yeah, there is no other place to be. But obviously, and again, I don't want to press here. Would student fans be the first priority as opposed to general public, alumni, or have you guys just not even gone there yet?
You know what, I guess we have, I guess since you asked the question, our priority would be, if we had a pecking order, which we don't, but if we did, it would be families first, try to get our student athletes, moms and dads and aunts and uncles and, friends and family to watch them play. And then then students, I mean, it is just, and I don't have to explain this to you. It is a unique experience to go to Washington State University. Community is a real thing here, and our students enjoy congregating together. They enjoy spending time together, and they enjoy expressing their love for Washington State at at sporting events. So, I mean, they are always, and we love the advantage they give us when they're in our building. So there'll be a time and a place for that. And right now we're in a pause with all that. And we're just grateful that we can have our competitions the way they are in a socially distant, safe manner with all the testing protocols that we have in place. And, whenever that time comes, it comes. But we're just grateful that we can play our games.
I'm so glad you brought up the families as well. I think that's something that as fans, you forget about sometimes, that these are kids, their parents are going months without being able to see them because of, bubbles and quarantining and all of that kind of stuff. So hopefully we get to a point where especially the parents can come and root on their kids, because I can't imagine not being able to do that. With kind of all of that said, obviously it's an evolving situation, but have you been pleased with what you've seen support-wise, communication-wise from the conference as a whole, as you've been trying to navigate all of this for almost a year now?
Yeah, it's been tough because well, if anything, we communicate more as a conference because of Zoom. So I see Jen Cohen probably 2 or 3 times a week now, my peer on my friend and peer on the UW side. So there's constant communication. I think that's been very helpful. There's a lot of decisions that have to be made on the fly, just simply because the environment is in a constant change, and there's new variables that come into play. So as a whole, I'm pleased with the work we've done. It has not been easy by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, the community spread is real, and in all the Pac12 communities in which these campuses reside in. So we're doing our best. I mean, we're mission driven. We understand our role in all this, and we also understand that we have an obligation to our student athletes to give them the ability to go compete and go do the things they love to do. So, but our league as a whole, like anything, the collective is always, when the collective works together for a common goal, it always seems an easier path to get there. And, all 12 schools are united trying to deliver something meaningful for their student athletes.
When you look back on all of this, and hopefully sooner rather than later, it'll be something we can completely put in the past, and that will be an isolated one-time year situation that we will have had to deal with all of this. What do you think you'll reflect on as what was the biggest challenge, but also on the other side, what inspired you the most through all of it?
Well, what probably they're one and the same is the resiliency of people. And I look at our athletic department staff, and we're like a lot of businesses in and around Seattle or the state of Washington. Our staff have taken furloughs. We'll continue to take furloughs. We've had coaches that have taken salary reductions, and I have yet to hear one complaint. And I think that's a testament to the type of people we have within this athletic department that care so much about our student athletes and Washington State University, that they understand. And although not ideal by any stretch of the imagination, they want to be a part of the solution, and they want to see us move forward. So like anything, everything is just, it's, as with all the things we see going on nationally, and heck, even in Seattle, sometimes there is plenty of good and plenty of examples of the power of the human spirit. And when people come together and work together for a common goal, it is very inspiring. And this want to and get to do attitude that a lot of our student athletes have, our coaches have, people in the Seattle community have, I think that's what's going to guide us and help us through when we get on the other side of this.
Beautifully said. I love all of that. And you're right. It's like there's so much negative these days, all days. So it's like to be able to see the positive and try and find the things to be grateful for and appreciate all of it. It's just next level. And I just love it. And I appreciate you. I appreciate all you're doing for our university and taking the time today to talk with me. Pat, as always, I love catching up with you. Hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon and in person next time.
Hey, anything for a Cougar alum, and go Cougs.
Now, no surprise here, but our very own Aaron Levine remains undefeated as our trivia master. Will that still be the case, though, this week? Let's find out in the latest On the Clock.
Well, we're now joined by Kieran Butcher, who responded on Twitter, "I'm scared about this matchup," because you've kind of come to win this gift card at all costs, haven't you?
Well, I mean, if you're going to do a trivia, you might as well talk a little trash beforehand. That's the way it is.
Yeah, just like a one-on-one basketball game. It's one-on-one trivia right here. I love the Sounders FC scarf, by the way. You ready for the season? It's going to be here before we know it again.
You know what? As long as we can start attending games again, I will take it.
Yeah, you and me both. Where are you at right now? What do you do?
I'm up in Lake Stevens, Washington right now. I work in construction for an internet service provider.
Well, a shout out to, what is it, Tom Tree and the Vikings up there, the football team that they do so well every year.
They have a tendency to compete. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, the home of Jacob Eason. Today, you can win a $100 gift card to Daniel's Broiler, but house rules here, you have to beat me outright to win. These questions are provided by The Fish, Jeff Aaron's Fame Trivia USA. He's big up on the North Sound right there in Everett. Check him out at Fame Trivia USA on Facebook. Each of us is going to have a minute to answer as many questions as possible. You're going to go first. I'm going to start playing music in different headphones. I'm taking these off. I've got Fun, We Are Young playing right now. There we go. Jessamine McIntyre is standing by. Kieran, good luck.
Thank you.
Yes, I am. Kieran, are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, you are officially on the clock. He drove his little red Corvette into the top 10. Who is he?
Prince.
This Green Bay Packer quarterback never knew when to quit and started a record 297 games in a row.
Be Brett Favre.
He was a prolific person and once scored 100 points in an NBA basketball game.
Will Chamberlain.
Alex Trebek was born in this county. Country.
Oh, Canada.
What is it called when you score 3 goals in one hockey game?
That'd be a hat trick.
Before Survivor and Big Brother, this MTV show took television into a house where 7 young people lived together.
Oh. Real World.
What animal is the symbol of Thailand?
Tiger.
How many fouls does it take to foul out of a college basketball game?
5.
All right, Kieran, you did really well. It's going to be up to you, Aaron.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
You're officially on the clock. He drove his little red Corvette into the top 10.
Prince.
This Green Bay Packer quarterback never knew when to quit and started a record 297 games in a row.
Brett Favre.
He was a prolific person and once scored 100 points in an NBA basketball game.
Will Chamberlain.
Alex Trebek was born in this country.
Canada.
What is it called when you score 3 goals in one hockey game?
Hat trick.
Before Survivor and Big Brother, this MTV show took television into a house where 7 young people lived together.
Real World.
What animal is the symbol of Thailand?
Dragon.
How many fouls does it take to foul out of a college basketball game?
5.
What kind of pie is considered traditional to celebrate George Washington's birthday?
Apple. Cherry.
Nope, Aaron, that does not count. This is a tie, and it goes to the house. I'm sorry, Kieran. You guys both got 7 correct.
Wow, Kieran, nice job. I mean, if we were playing on your home turf, I would not be going home with a gift card. But I will say this: thank you so much for playing, and we've got a Q13 FOX coffee mug for you. And I want a rematch because you played really well.
Well, you know, anytime you're up for another competition there, Aaron, I'm more than happy to oblige.
Well, I'll look out for you on Twitter, Kieran Butcher. Shout out to Lake Stevens. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Take care. Thank you, guys.
That was a close one. Again, here are the answers. Prince drove his little red Corvette into the top 10. Brett Favre started 297 games in a row. Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in an NBA game. Alex Trebek was born in Canada, and 3 goals in a game is a hat trick. Real World had 7 people living in a house together. The elephant is the symbol of Thailand. 5 fouls will get you tossed from a college basketball game, and a cherry pie is used to celebrate George Washington's birthday. Meanwhile, Aaron is not here this week, but check out a perfect 4-0 record in his NFL picks against the spread last weekend. He wins with the Packers, the Bills, the Browns, because they got 10 points at Kansas City and Tampa Bay against New Orleans. That means he is now 34-21-1 this season. And he left us his picks for this weekend, taking the underdog in both NFL Conference Championship games. But he also gets an extra 3 points with Tampa Bay and Buffalo in case it's a close game. Well, that does it for this episode of Just a Bit Outside, presented by WaFd Bank. Join a best bank. A huge thanks to Alyssa, Percy, Ian, and Aaron. I'm Michelle Ludtka saying thank you for hanging out with me today. We'll see you same time, same place next week.